Okay, last year in 7th grade, you learned how to solve a two-step equation. And then in 8th grade, we did variables on both sides, which you guys missed that, so I'm going to have to catch you up with that. But today for our class, we're going to go back to 7th grade to review how to solve a two-step equation. Remember, an equation is like a triple valence beam in science, yes? Everything is equal because the equal sign says so. So I can add whatever I want on this side and keep it equal as long as I do what? Add the exact same thing to the other side. Okay? So whatever I do to one side, I have to do it to the other, or it goes like this and it's not equal anymore. Are y'all good with me? Yes? What is your goal in an equation? To say what? To get the variable. Your goal is to isolate, write this down, your goal is to isolate the variable. What does it mean to isolate? Get it by itself. So the variable, your goal is to get the variable by itself. That's your goal. So you should end with x equals whatever, or y equals whatever variable you're looking for. Okay, there are certain steps you need to follow. Write this down. For the first step, you're going to look to see, are there any like terms that I need to combine? So first step, combine like terms. That's going to be step 1. Combine like terms. If you can. If there's nothing to combine, then you skip the step. Step 2, you're going to add or subtract to move the constant. Remember, the constant's the number by itself. You're going to add or subtract to move the constant, the number that's by itself. And then the third step, you're going to multiply or divide to move the coefficient. That's the number attached to the variable. You move the coefficient last. And then your very last step that we're not going to write down, you're going to check your answer to make sure it's correct. Yes, y'all did one-step equations in 6th grade, two-step in 7th grade, and then 8th grade does variables on both sides, which you missed. And then in algebra, we do all kind of crazy equations, okay? So, but we're going to start with the basics just to make sure we remember everything. So here we go. Look at the first example. Look at step 1, combine like terms. So here's the left side of the equal sign. Here's the right side. You don't have to do this part. I like to do it at first so y'all can see this is the left, this is the right. Whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. Okay. Are there any like terms on the left side that I can combine? No. Are there any on the right side? No. So I move to step 2. Add or subtract to move the, so you're looking, what side is the x on? Because my whole goal is to get the x by it. So I am trying so hard to get this x by itself. So I've got to move the 9 and the 5. Does everybody agree? The constant goes first. We add or subtract to move the constant. To move something, you do the opposite operation. Yes? So the opposite of plus 9 is what? And whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. You should be writing. Now, that is the first step. Now I'm going to simplify what I just did. So you're going to cross that out because 9 minus 9 is gone. I zeroed it out. Yes? The 5x comes down. The equal sign stays in the middle. And 24 minus 9 is 15. And then you ask yourself, have I reached my goal? Have I isolated the variable? Yes or no? No, I have not. Why haven't I? Because the 5 is still attached. This is called a coefficient. So now I'm going to multiply or divide to move the coefficient. So right now, 5 is being multiplied by x, so what's the opposite operation? Now let's talk about why we're dividing. What is 5 divided by 5? It cancels out to 1, and 1 times x is x. So I didn't want to zero it out, because 0 times x would be 0. I don't want to get rid of x. I want to isolate x, yes? All right, if I divide the left by 5, what do I have to do to the right? All right, and now I have 1 times x, which is x, is equal to 15 divided by 5, which is? Now, before you move on, you check your answer. You do that by plugging 3 back in for x to see if it's true. Is 5 times 3 plus 9 equal to 24? Yes, so I got it right, so that's my answer. I love equations, and the reason I love them is because I can pretty much be guaranteed to make 100 because I can check my work by plugging it back in. Yes? All right, let's do the next one. I'm going to go a little faster. Separate the left from the right. All right, what's my goal? Isolate the variable. Where's the variable? Right there on the left. It's an x. Step 1, combine like terms. So look, is there any like terms? No? Over here? No. Step 2, move the constant by adding or subtracting. Here's the constant. What is the opposite of minus 4? Whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. Now I'm going to just simplify what I did. What is minus 4 plus 4? It zeroes out, yes? I'm going to bring my negative 3x down, and 13 plus 4 is 17. Have I isolated my variable? Not yet. My last step is to multiply or divide to get rid of the coefficient. Now look at this. Negative 3 is being multiplied by x, so how would I get rid of it? Divide. Am I going to divide by negative 3 or positive 3? You divide by what you see, and let me tell you why. If I divide by positive 3, is x going to be by itself, or is it going to have a negative sign in front of it? Do you see what I'm saying? I need to get this canceled out to a positive 1, and a negative divided by a negative is a what? A positive. So I need it to be a positive 1 because 1 times x is x. Okay, so that cancels out, and whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the, so I'm dividing by negative 3. Since that's a crazy fraction, I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. So I have x equals negative 17 thirds. Or if you want to change it into a mixed fraction, 3 goes into 17 5 times with what? 2 left over? So negative 5 and 2 thirds. Either answer would be perfectly fine for me. Are we okay? All right, let's look at this one. Are there any like terms to combine? No. Where is the variable? Right there. What's my goal? To isolate it. Okay, so how am I going to get rid of this negative 3? How would I zero that out? Plus 3. Don't look at this plus sign, because the opposite of that is to subtract, but a negative 3 minus 3 is a negative 6. It would not zero out. You've got to think about what your goal is. You're trying to zero it out. So I got a plus 3. So I bring my 8t down, and negative 27 plus 3 is negative 24. And you'll have your calculator so that you don't mess up. Have I isolated the variable? No, I got to get rid of the what? 8. 8 is being multiplied by t. It's a coefficient. So to get rid of it, I'm going to divide by 8. That cancels out to 1. 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 1 times t is t equals negative 24 divided by 8 is negative 3. Now, there's a typo on the next one, so just be mindful that minus sign after the 1. I think my finger accidentally hit it. So it should say plus 1, okay? All right, y'all try this one on your own. So if you need help for step 1, look at the board. Everybody got that part right? Yes? What does this say right here? Negative 20 minus 1. Or negative 20 plus negative 1. It's the same thing. So what is that? Negative 21. Y'all good so far? And what was your next step? Divide by what? Negative 6. What happened if you divide by positive 6? What's left over there? A negative sign. We don't want that left. So I have W equals negative 21 over negative 6 is an improper fraction that can be simplified. If you want to see how it simplifies, just type in alpha y equals 21 over 6, and it will simplify it to 7/2 or 3.5. Either answer would be a good answer. That is not a simplified answer. First of all, 2 negatives make a, and that fraction can be divided by 3. So no, it's not a good answer. You must simplify them. All right, let's look at the next one. What's my goal? To isolate the, all right, there's the variable. My first step, combine any like terms. There's nothing to combine. Yes? My next step is to get rid of the constant. Which one of these is a constant? 5. So we're going to deal with the 5. How do I get rid of a plus 5? Minus 5. Whatever I do to the left, I do to the right. That zeroes out, which is what I want. I am left with x divided by 2 equals, and 11 minus 5 is 6. Are y'all okay so far? Now we're going to get rid of the coefficient that's attached to the x. X is being attached to the 2 by what? What is this called? It's a division sign. Yes, it's a fraction, but it's division. Yes? So what is the opposite of divide? Multiply. Now I'm going to show you why this works. You don't have to write this down. If I have x divided by 2, and I go multiply by 2 over, what goes right here? 1. And I multiply straight across. 2 times x is 2x, and 1 times 2 is 2. What ends up happening right there? It cancels out to a what? 1. And 1 times x is, so that's why it works. You don't need it. You don't have to show all that. All you're going to do is go like this. Times 2, and it cancels out. Whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. So I have x equals 6 times 2 is 12. Should I check my work? Yes. So I would say, is 12 divided by 2 plus 5 11? Well, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 plus 5 is 11. So my answer is good. Are y'all okay? All right, let's try this one. I want you to do step 1 on your own. Check step 1 and make sure you got it right. Yes or no? All right, how are you going to get rid of the negative 4? By 4 or negative 4? Because two negatives make a positive. So I'm multiplying by negative 4. It cancels out. And whatever I do to the left, I do to the right. Remember, do not use an X for a multiplication sign because you'll think it's a variable. Okay, so I'm left with X equals 40. Are we okay? Everybody feel okay? All right, moving on. We're not going to do all of these. We're just going to do as many as we can. How am I going to get rid of the plus 7? Whatever I do to the left, I have to do. All right, that cancels out. I'm left with negative t over 5 equals, what's a negative 5 minus 7? Negative 12. How do I get rid of this divide by 5? Whatever I do to the left, I got to do to the right. So I have negative t equals negative 60. Is the variable by itself? No, it's not. There's a negative in front of it. It has a coefficient of what? 1. So can I just divide by negative 1? So really this just becomes, what's anything divided by 1 itself, but dividing by a negative would make it the opposite. So it's t is equal to positive 60. All right, this one. My goal is to get the x by itself. Now stop real quick. Do y'all see a double negative right here? Yeah. So could I just go, the two negatives make a, you see what I'm saying? Like I don't got to deal with all that. Okay? All right, how am I going to get rid of a minus 7? So I have x divided by 2 equals 16. Because if I have negative t, then see how it had negative t? Then I have to divide by negative 1. And negative 60 divided by negative 1 is positive 60. So anytime your variable's negative, then your answer will just be the opposite. So if it's positive, it'll become negative. If it's negative, it'll become positive. All right. How am I going to get rid of the 2? And 16 times 2 is 32. Okay, on these last ones, what's the only thing that's different? There's some like terms. So you might have to skip other steps. Like, do you even see a constant on the left? No. So you won't do the step for the constant. So I can combine, what's 7x minus 4x? 3x equals 21. Notice there's no constant. So I don't need to do the adding or subtracting step. I just need to get rid of the 3. And the 3 is being multiplied by x. So to get rid of it, I divide by 3. And 21 divided by 3 is 7. Let's go skip that one. That one's too easy. Let's do this one. So what am I going to do first? Combine like terms. What's 4x plus 2x? So I have 6x minus 3 equals 9. Now I'm going to isolate this variable by getting rid of the 3 and the 6. Which one's going to go first? The constant. So I got to get rid of the constant. Never get rid of the coefficient first. That's the last thing you deal with. So I'm going to get rid of the constant by opposite of minus 3. And how do I get rid of the 6? So x equals 2. Huh? 7x minus 4x? 7 minus 4 is 3. So we combined the like terms. So follow your steps up here and you won't have an issue. Now for the fun part. Are y'all ready? Okay, write this down. If they say output, you're going to put a Y. If they say input, what are you going to put? You're going to put an X. So you're going to turn these verbal words, these mathematical words, into an equation. All you got to do is write what you read. Okay? Are y'all ready? The output, what did I say about output? The output of a function is, what is in math? Equals. So I'm going to put Y equals. And I have another typo. I forgot to write 20 more, so put that 20 more. 20 more than negative 2 times the input. How would I write that? 20 more than. 20 plus negative 2 times the input. What's the input? So negative 2 times x. That's not hard, is it? Okay, now look, we can't solve this, can we? Because there's two variables. But it says, hey, the output is 11. So instead of writing y, I'm going to write, so I have 11 equals 20 plus negative 2x. Now can I solve for x? All right, so let's look at this equation. It's backwards from what we've been doing. Does it matter? No, you're isolating the variable. So I want to get x by itself. Are there any like terms to combine? No. I'm going to get rid of the constant. Now, everybody stop. Do not say the opposite of plus is minus. Don't worry about that. Cover that up. How would I zero out a 20? With a minus 20 or a negative 20. So minus, it doesn't matter. They're the same thing. 20 minus 20 zeros out, yes? Whatever I do to this side, I got to do to this side. That's going to zero out. 11 minus 20 is negative 9 equals negative 2x. I'm still trying to get this x by itself. How am I going to get rid of the coefficient negative 2? If you divide by negative 2. Whatever I do to the right, I do to the left. So my answer is 9/2 or 4.5. I want you to try to write this next one on your own. Input is x, output is y. Go. Set it up first. Be careful with the words less than. Okay, let me give you all a hint. Everybody look. What's the answer to what I just wrote? What's the answer? 15. What's 5 less than 20? 15. So did you do 5 minus 20 or did you do 20 minus 5? If you see the words less than, they switch spots. Are y'all ready for me to set it up? Here we go. The input. What is input? Is. What is is? X equals 7 less than. That does not mean 7 minus. That means something minus 7. Are y'all with me? All right. 3 times the output. Well, the output's y. So 3y minus 7. You just switch their spots if it says less than. The input is 23. And then you solve. Okay, what's my goal? Isolate the So I want to get the y by itself. How do I get rid of, which one goes first, the 3 or the 7?
7.
All right, how do I get rid of a minus 7? Because you're trying to zero it out. Whatever I do to the left, I got to do to the right. So I have 30 equals 3 times y. How do I get rid of the coefficient? Divide by 3, and 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now, the reason I put these last ones on here is because fractions are dealt with very differently. If you use your alpha y equals button, then you can do it like normal. But if you do it in your head, you can't do it like normal. So I want to make sure I go over that. Okay, so everything's the same. I don't have any like terms to combine. What's my goal? Isolate the variable. The first thing I'm going to get rid of is the constant. So how would I get rid of a negative 2? How would you zero it out? Plus 2. Now, real quick, question. What kind of value does this 3/4 x have? What kind of value? Negative or positive? Because that minus sign is there, if you go like this, it has a what kind of value? So I have to write negative 3/4 x equals 27. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Now, there are 2 ways to do this next step. This is why I'm going over this with you. Number 1, most of you know that 3/4 is 75 cents. You could change it to a decimal, absolutely. But what if it was like a third? You can't change it to a decimal because it's a repeating decimal. So you need to know. Negative 3/4 is being multiplied by x. So technically, to get rid of it, you would divide by negative 3/4. If you do that, you need to use your alpha y equals button. So I would do 27 divided by alpha y equals negative 3/4. And that will work. Are y'all with me? If you did not have a calculator in 6th and 7th grade, you learned you can't divide fractions. Y'all remember? You multiply by the reciprocal. Keep, change, flip. Yes? So to cancel this out, you simply multiply by its reciprocal. Why does that work? Doesn't it cancel out? Yes or no? So I don't care which way you do it. If you want to divide, you have to use alpha y equals because the calculator knows to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, but y'all should know. To cancel this out, I multiply by the reciprocal, meaning flip the fraction, because look what happens. See how it cancels out? So I multiply this by negative 4/3. Or just divide by alpha y equals. It does not matter to me. So x is equal to negative 36. All right, try this one on your own. I don't care if you multiply by the reciprocal or you divide using alpha y equals. You pick what works for you. So which way are y'all choosing to do it? Y'all like the alpha y equals? So just divide by 5/6. But you have to use your little alpha y equals button. So 30 divided by alpha y equals 5/6. Enter. That's your answer. T equals 36. Or you could have multiplied by the reciprocal. Last question, word problem time. To rent a booth at the county fairgrounds, it costs $42 per day. Anytime you see per, that's a rate. plus a one-time fee of $85. How would I write that? 42 per day. 42x or D for day, whatever. I'm going to put D for day. Plus it has a one-time fee. Is that a constant? Yeah, because it's only going to be one time plus $85. Find the number of days Mr. Battle Reynolds if he paid a total, so that equals $337. This is all from 7th grade, yes? Y'all remember doing these? All right, and then you would solve. So how would I get rid of the constant, the 85? Subtract 85. So I bring down my 42 times my days, and 337 minus 85 is 252. How would I get rid of my coefficient? Divide by 42. So 252 divided by 42 is 6. Is that a good answer? Ooh. 6 what? 6 what? Guys, find the number of days. What did D stand for? Days. All right, let me pass out the assignment. On 1 through 9, there is no reason you should miss any of those because you can plug your answer back in to check it, yes? 10 through 12, you are write the equation. That's the first part. Then solve it. How many answers will you have for those? 2 answers. The equation and the answer, like x equals whatever or y equals whatever. 13 through 15, should you miss those? Because you can do what? You can check your answer. 16 through 18, you shouldn't miss them. You can check your answers. And guys, 19 and 20 are in y equals mx plus b form. I know y'all were taught that last year. Just like this. Y equals mx plus b. A rate times a variable plus a constant equals the total. So they're in that form. Okay, then solve them. Everybody good? Get busy.